All right, good morning, guys. Welcome back to another Tradingology.com trading room here on Wednesday, the 21st of 2020, after a long weekend and the markets being closed yesterday. And fire up this guy. Hey, good morning, Keith. Good morning, Mark. How you guys doing? Just getting my screen situated. Took some time off myself. Either you guys trading the TSA, or excuse me, the VA, the volatility arbitrage. We'll find out if Dave's joining. I didn't get confirmation, so we'll play it by ear. And just for a heads up, I do have a meeting at the bottom of the hour, so it'll be 20, 30 minutes or so at the most today. So looking at this guy in the setup, we'll cover that real quick, and as people come in, we will cover that. Just taking a look at the spreadsheet where we're at. We did have a flattening of our bell curve the last couple days coming into this long weekend, so we're down at a -4 on both. So pretty flat there. Binary trend is starting to fill out to the negative again. So we had some mixed signals here, and we're back down 3.199. So we've come just below that 3.2 that we saw go once below last week. So very potential for higher volatility at this time, I'd say. Just at that 3.2 level with potential bounce off of that. Flattening on the bell curve on the cross column here. And the overbought oversold has plateaued at a -22 for 3 days in a row here. So looking at that, and then looking at the 4-hour chart, I'll pull over. Coming into the morning, where we had yesterday was the Martin Luther King Day, so the regular markets were closed. Futures did still trade, so we see activity on the chart there. So I just took into account the overnight activity being down, and I'm looking at that coming into the open. So we did have Dave's having a problem with his keyboard. He just sent me a message, so we'll see if he makes it or not. He's having technical difficulties. So I did have an up bias just slightly this morning is where we ended up for the trade setup alert. And then we see the first 5 minutes, we did have a nice up move. If I mouse over that, it looks like it was a 0.11. So just about a point, just over 0.10 move. And then, excuse me, that's the 1 minute mark. I was going to say I thought it was a bigger on the 5 minutes. So if I go back to the 5 here, so the majority of the move happened right at the open in the first minute. And then looking at the 5 minute chart, if it did have a trade for the upside, it was a 0.14, so just under half of that daily goal that people would come after. Then it is continuously coming down now. So we see, looking at the markets are slightly recovering now. Because typically we see, as we've talked about, just to quickly refresh, we'll slide that back over there. Move him over here. Typically when the market moves, the spread moves opposite of it. So we see, looking at the cash indexes here, the Dow index was up, so it went down initially, but now we are starting to see some higher MT vol levels coming in here. Let's look, Dave's coming in. He's just not on the microphone yet. So I'm also watching, our BOP levels. Hey, there's Dave. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning. I apologize for my lateness. I could not get my keyboard to type in the Tradingology website.
That happens every once in a while. Technology bites.
It's very odd. Usually it only happens when the battery's low, but I didn't get any warning. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go right ahead.
No worries. Yep, just covered the VA trade quickly on this one where it was a quick up move, but we have plateaued and a not real great signal. So we're definitely, 55 to 45 was only the TSA this morning.
Okay.
So it's a quick trade to the up, and then just looking at the overall markets here of coming higher, but I do see, looking at MT vol levels are starting to increase, so we're going to see some more volatility coming in here.
Yeah, we definitely have the up and down volume to the negative side. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bullish herding on the daily. if you look at the spreadsheet, a lot of
I
bullish.
did see that over the weekend. I pulled it up since we had I think the last one I looked at was the 16th. I didn't update Friday's numbers yet when I was looking at my sheet. But yeah,
but
it's filled out
yeah,
all the way.
yeah, it didn't change much. I mean, there's still lots of bullish earnings, so I don't expect this to be the beginning of a big decline. I think we've got a lot more work to do before that happens, but we might get a little bit of pullback, a little kind of stabilization here probably before we go higher. It may take these kind of transitions when there's a lot of bullish hurting take sometimes a week or two before there's like nothing left.
Sure. And I always like for heightened awareness around odd weeks where we had, Martin Luther King Day yesterday. So the futures were open, but the regular markets were closed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always different. I always have just increased awareness from myself personally, just watching things.
Yep, absolutely.
And I did mention before you jumped on, I do have a meeting at the bottom of the hour, so we'll be a shorter one today.
Yep. I got your.
You got the message too? Perfect. Yep. All right.
No worries. So lots of, interesting stuff though. I mean, it is, I don't know if you watch George Gammon videos on YouTube.
I do not. I don't know him.
He's kind of a new guy who's popped up just over the last few months, but he's got a really good grasp of what's going on with the Fed, the repo market, interest rates, and stuff like that. He's an entrepreneur. He did some stuff maybe 10, 15 years ago, made a lot of money, moved to Medellin, Colombia. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Okay.
And he buys, rehabs, and owns real estate down there.
Okay.
Very interesting guy. So yeah, it's Gammon. And his last video he did, I think it was yesterday, was on, let me see if I can pull that up. It was pretty good. It was very, very good. He's got this whole repo thing down pat. The repo market endgame.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's good. I recommend everybody watch that one.
I
can put a link in the chat if you want.
Sure. Yeah, if you got the YouTube link, that'd be perfect. Save
Yeah.
us some searching.
Yeah, I mean, he does really kind of a deep dive into it, much more so than I've seen anybody else do. Let me see. There it is. It's going to start playing here in a second. There we go. There we go.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
Yep.
So now people that are catching the recording will get it too, and they can check them out.
I guess he had I was kind of wondering where he got his kind of television voice from, but he started a channel, not a channel, but a TV show actually in Colombia. He produced it himself. It ran on Colombia TV for about 6 months or so, and I guess he decided to discontinue it. He just wasn't getting the advertising dollars that he thought he should get on it. But it was about purchasing real estate and flip it, fixing it up and then flipping it. So now he said, well, geez, that's really expensive to do that, to produce a TV show.
Sure.
I'll just go on YouTube and do it. and now he talks about the economy. He talks about flipping houses. He talks about, all that stuff. And he's grown to like 44,000 subscribers in like just a few months.
So is he flipping them down there in country, or is he flipping things up here?
He has real estate in Kansas City. He's from the States. And that's all he has, I guess. He has a couple properties in Kansas City.
Okay.
And then he went down to Colombia, and he's got a couple properties down there. So he just buys them, fixes them up, and then rents them down there. So he's looking for the income.
Gotcha.
Yeah, interesting guy. I like his delivery style.
Okay. Well, I will definitely take a look and check them out. Welcome, Alex. Any questions you guys got this fine morning or afternoon for Alexander? I just have the indexes up, just keeping an eye. We're starting to see a little bit of a additional increase, so we'll see how this day folds out here.
Yeah, I think we'll be down today. We're up a little bit right now, but it looks like the way we've got a lot more down volume than volume here on the BOP. So, yeah, that could change though, because on the daily, we still have a lot of bullish hurting, like I said. Not a lot of news. I mean, Trump is over in Davos. He just bragged about the excellent U.S. economy, and nothing really new there.
Yeah, I guess the only potential news for this week might be with trials starting, but we'll see what that does.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. So the Democrats have really I'm not making any political statements, but just an observation of the scene is that the Democrats have really put themselves out on a limb here, because if they can't get this, if they can't follow through and actually impeach him, it's a huge failure. So they really put themselves out on a limb, because if they can't do it, it makes Trump's reelection probably more certain.
Right.
Right.
I could see it. Yep.
And if they do it, then they better produce a candidate that can win. I don't know. I haven't really followed. I've looked at a couple of the debates, review, people who review the debates and stuff like that. I don't see any standouts. I mean, really.
Yeah, I haven't followed it too closely myself either. And yeah, we're definitely not going to turn it into a political channel.
No,
yeah,
it's a waste
here and there. I know what you're saying, for sure.
Yeah, it's a waste of time, in my opinion.
They all just need to get to work is what they need to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they spend more time trying to get reelected than actually get any kind of work done.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about it, just in general, is I wish they would institute term limits for all of them, so they couldn't stay in there for life and be lifetime politicians. That's my take. Yeah, interesting looking at our the futures, as you say. They're trying to get positive, but they're fighting back and definitely bouncing off some of these levels. This one actually did break through in the NQ. That's the only one. That the other ones came up to that mean line and retraced. So NQ is a little bit stronger today than the YM, which is leading to the short spread currently has popped up at the open, and now we're down since. Alexander, I did talk about the VA, so if you want to check the recording, I know it was before you came on, so I know you're always watching that daily, so definitely watch the recording when that comes out.
And as promised, I did work on the new script.
Oh, good job. I was going to say, I was just about to call you out in 5 minutes, but I figured I'd wait. Since I was your accountability manager.
I knew you were going to do that. And I said, well, geez, I better do something. Actually, I forgot today was Tuesday. Yesterday, I'm thinking, oh, okay, we don't have a trading room tomorrow because it's Monday. Today's Monday. So.
The long weekend got to you, right?
Yeah, long weekend.
Feels like Monday today.
So I said, well, I better get my rear end in gear here and do something with this, because let's see if I can find it. Where is it? When I want to find it, I can't. I'll just bring up every single chart I have there.
Yeah, we see it's kind of continuously, definitely more in favor of that down day as you're finding your stuff there. Just watching the indexes. I think there was a question, wasn't from you guys, but Keith's asking, how do I have my BLP script set up and why? So the BLP script, are you talking about the curve or just in general the bearish, or excuse me, the balance of power up here? Not curve, the top one, just the balance of power. That is the one that shows the dots from either 1 to 6. Like right now we see we are full bearish herding right now, so all 6 columns are filled in. So that's why we're seeing the downturn in the Dow Jones. So that's why I watch it on both indexes. I put it on the SPX. I'm just playing with it. It's only meant for the Dow and the NDX. I suppose, Dave, I could take your input on that too, where I think they're pretty well correlated. But so we'll see the same numbers here because these are both dialed in. So inside the scripts, you can select, I'll pull up the gear here so you see it. Oh, excuse me, not the gear. Go away. The script itself. I'm going to edit the studies. And then in the BOPs and the MT vols, you can select NYSE or the NASDAQ. So they're the two that they're designed for. There isn't one specifically for the SPX, but it is pretty much the same as the NYSE.
Yeah, the script, the internal market data was highly correlated to the NYSE for the S&P 500. So if you use the NYSE one, that's that does definitely correlate very well to the S&P.
So there's, yeah, okay. So yeah, it was built for that, but it works for both. And as you're saying how I have it set up, so there isn't really much that I have it set up other than I watch for, as they start to fill out. The first one is new people coming into the market. In this case, it's sellers. If it's green side, it's buyers coming into the market. Then as it fills out, that's just the herding taking place, and we see it visually. So these are live, taken from the script, the spreadsheet, the overall market timer spreadsheets, the main ones. Does that help what you're asking, Keith?
Yeah, you see how it thinned out on Friday? You can see it really thinned out going back. You got those single dots up there. Really, the one closest to the zero line is the most recent herding. The ones farther away to the top side and to the bottom side are the later ones. So you can see it really started thinning out. When it starts thinning out like that, that's kind of there's not much bullishness anymore. Nobody's kind of piling into that bullish side of the trade.
And we put them in conjunction, right? So here at the beginning of the day, it was stronger and it tailed off, as Dave's referring to. At the same time, the BOP curve is dropping, MT volatility was rising. So they all work in conjunction. So you can see where it slightly tailed off and decreased as the day went, with a couple ebbs and flows as the machines buy and sell. That's how we look at it.
Keith says his BOP script is not set up like this. If you review, that's on a 10-minute chart. You should, so make sure that you do the same if it's on a 10-minute chart. And also you want to take, because the BOP uses internal market data, you want to make sure you turn off the overnight sessions.
And also make sure some of them will not show if you have like the YM up or something else. Make sure you're on the index.
Yeah, you're either on the Dow or the SPX. Yeah.
And here's where, if you go into the equities and the gear, make sure your extended hours is turned off that he was referring to. That's where that is. And start aggregation at market open. I always have that checked for these.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
If that doesn't help you, take some screenshots, Keith, and you can always shoot us an email and I'll take a peek for you.
Do you want to take a quick look at this new script?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to trade over screens?
Yep.
Okay, I'll stop sharing here for you.
Okay. Figure out where I do the sharing.
Share button, pick your screen, share again.
Where is that screen? Nope, that's not doing it. Share. Oh, it's right in the middle at the bottom. Holy cow. Okay, look at my desktop. There we go.
Here it comes. There we go. Now we got you.
Okay. So this is real bare bones, but it does show an interesting pattern. So I put it on a 1 hour chart. It's down here. This is the YMNQ. So that's what we trade. And then I called it the VA cash futures ratio. And it uses the YM, the difference between the YM and the Dow Cash Index and the NQ and the NDX Cash Index. And you can see that every time we start to get this, it's what's really interesting is the ratio between the NDX and the futures and cash is pretty steady compared to the YM. So it's the YM that kind of really gets weird.
Interesting.
But it has the same pattern. So we get this YM Dow declining. We also have the NQ NDX declining. But then you see this, but the NDX was above the YM. And then when they kind of converge together, so you have this convergence here, and then the YM or the NDX is green, the YM is yellow here. And when the NDX dominates, you have this kind of huge decline here. And this is on the 1 hour, and the index the Dow does the exact same thing almost every single time. We go back here, that's the 12th or 17th of December through the 5th of February. Then it does the same thing again here. Did the same thing here. Did the same thing here and here. So what drives what is driving the decline in advances in the ratio in the VA spread is this kind of difference between the NDX cash and future ratio and the Dow future ratio in cash index. So it's pretty interesting. So now it's starting to decline again. There was only, if I go on a shorter time frame, I'll go on a 10-minute and just kind of give you an idea. So that was the first thing I recognized, that there's definitely a pattern there. On a shorter time frame, it's a little bit easier to actually trade. Oops, I'll do that. And so you can see they were pretty close. Actually, for a little while, the Dow and the cash futures ratio was above the NDX and futures ratio. And we had a little bit of stabilization. But then here we had this gigantic move up in the NDX and the futures. And we had this, and it dominated the Dow futures. And we just dropped like a rock. And so you see the difference between these two kind of narrowed a little bit here. But when we started to see an acceleration of the decline, the difference between these two got more and more dramatic. Got very, very large. And today we're kind of seeing, again, that the Dow cash and futures was dropping dramatically here, and we're getting a further decline in the spread. So the difference between these two is pretty dramatic. And so the NDX is still dominating the VA trade. Very, very big gap here between these two. So I'm still working on it. I think it has some potential, some real potential here to see which one is more dominant than the other, which one is strengthening, which one is weakening. what kind of surprised me was the real kind of stableness of the NDX compared to the YM and the Dow cash futures. It could be just because of the number of issues that are involved in the NDX. It's 100 companies compared to 30 in the Dow. But it seems to be pretty good. See, like here, we never got a real big rally, but we did have times of a rally. And this is when the Dow and the futures, the YM, were strengthening relative to each other. And then we got this huge, this is kind of interesting. There's a couple times where it spikes and then it goes right back down. So you could tell that we were going to go back, especially right in here, they were going to start to trend back down again.
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting.
Yeah, and then we had another spike up here, and we got a nice move. It stayed there, and we had a nice move higher. So yeah, there's a couple of interesting things. I'm going to continue to work on it. Here's a nice little spike up here, and that spike actually happened before the move. Right there's the peak of the spike, and it happened just before that big move up.
So that could potentially either be a signal either way, whether you're in a long-term short, say, hey, we're gonna, this is going the other way, capture profit,
right,
or hey, we might be jumping higher here. If you're not in, here's a chance.
Yep, exactly. And interestingly enough, that happened right at 1 o'clock, which is Eastern time, which is the time that we often see the VA trade reverse itself. Right? So we have the 9 a.m. period, and then we have the 1 a.m. period on the 4 hour. So nice little spike up there, and then we got a pretty big move up.
Yeah, definitely room for more.
So I think it has some potential. So like here, we didn't decline a lot, but then the YM Dow ratio was above the NDX, and it showed strength, and we moved higher. And here too. So
yeah, they're always the nice ones, right? If there's a crossover for signals, that always helps traders.
Yeah. And then here, the NDX spiked above the YM Dow ratio, and we went into from this point anyway, we went into a pretty big decline. And you can see the NDX dominated here. So I think it has some potential. I'm going to continue to work on it.
Nice.
And
well, you get a gold star for the day. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's about going to wrap us, because I got to jump on another call in a couple minutes here. So if you guys got any questions, definitely shoot us emails, support@tradingology.com, and we'll get them back to you. And I know there was a couple that I did read that I will be getting back to you guys. It's been busy on emails, so sorry if I'm a little bit delayed, but I have read them, and I will be getting back to you if you haven't heard me yet. So we appreciate you, Dave. Appreciate everybody coming in.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. We'll see you on Thursday.
We'll see you guys Thursday.
Take care.
Bye-bye.